Next to me is the all-new Ferrari 488, one of the most controversial Ferraris ever made. It was a radical change from its predecessor, the 458, with its controversial styling and the choice to go forced induction. Is it a welcome progression or a step in the wrong direction for the Italian supercar maker? That's what we're here to find out today. Special thanks to O'Gara Coach of Westlake, California for making this review possible. This car is available there now. I've got a link in the description below. While it shares some stylistic elements with the Ferrari 458, almost all of the body panels on the 488 have been completely redesigned, save the roof and the greenhouse. Now, the 458's iconic design was a product of the Italian design house Pininfarina. No longer is Pininfarina designing V8 Ferraris. We have Ferrari themselves coming up with the design of the 488. Even the design head of Ferrari, Flavio Manzoni, admitted that they chose to go with function over form with the design of the 488. And I'll admit, when it first came out, I wasn't the hugest fan of the design, but it has since grown on me tremendously. And with the recent release of the 488 Pista, Ferrari has certainly been coming out with some aggressive machines. In the front, the 488 shares nearly identical headlights with the 458, although the lower bumper has been completely recrafted with massive front intakes and two front splitters. Come around to the side and you'll notice some of the strangest looking door handles ever to be fitted on a car, let alone a Ferrari. Well, it turns out it's all in the name of aerodynamics. They've been purposely designed this way to channel air from the side of the car up into the massive air intakes to cool the motor and feed those turbochargers. Oh yeah, and the carbon ceramic brakes you see here and here, those are from the Ferrari LaFerrari. The heart of the 488 is the all-new 3.9-liter twin-turbocharged V8. Quite a step away from that beautiful 4.4-liter naturally aspirated V8 in the 458. It's actually just a reworked version of the Ferrari California Tease motor. Well, in reality, the only thing those two cars share is the aluminum block. But regardless, turbos were required for Ferrari to meet strict emission standards. But it also happens to produce a monstrous amount of power over the 458's 562 horsepower and 398 pound-feet of torque. That's right, we are now up to 660 horsepower and 560 pound-feet of torque. That's actually 58 more horsepower than the Lamborghini Huracan and 98 more horsepower than the 458. But what's with the 488 nomenclature if it has a 3.9-liter engine? Well, it turns out each cylinder in the 488 has 488 cubic centimeters of volume. Around back, you'll notice that there is no rear wing. Instead, Ferrari created an open slot at the base of the rear window for air to pass over the roof, down the window, and underneath this section here. The air actually travels and releases out through the back of the front bumper. That, combined with the rear diffuser and the front splitter, results in a downforce of 452 pounds at 150 miles an hour. That's actually 50% more downforce than the Ferrari 458. The newly designed rear diffuser of the 488 looks a lot more aggressive than that on the 458, partly because of this LED fog light. We've also got a dual split exhaust that's very reminiscent of the 458 Speciale. But what does the 488 sound like? The 458 adorned us with one of the most beautiful exhaust notes known to man. Well, I'll let you be the judge for yourself. The interior of the 488 is unmistakably Ferrari. It's beautifully designed. The infotainment controls are pointed at the driver, letting you know this is a driver-focused car, obviously. The interior of this 488 is finished in blue medio. It looks fantastic, especially with the contrasted white stitching and carbon fiber bits littered throughout. Now, Ferrari likes to charge quite a pretty penny 4 carbon fiber options. Whereas BMW throws in the carbon fiber trim for free, Ferrari uses the carbon fiber options as a bit of a hierarchy for Ferrari owners to compare themselves. Oh, you ordered a base 488? What are you, a peasant? I have every carbon fiber option available. So how much do the options actually cost? Well, this carbon fiber steering wheel will set you back $7,600. You want the door inserts in carbon fiber? That's another $6,900. The tunnel here, where you've got reverse, auto, and launch, $2,200 in carbon fiber. And these seats, these beautiful seats, are $10,500. While there are 5 different seat options to choose from, the 2 racing seat options, the Goldrake racing seats, which are fitted here, as well as the Daytona racing seats, actually are available in 3 different sizes. That's right, not only do they look beautiful and they're fitted in carbon fiber, you can get them in the size that fits you just right. Now, it's not quite to the level of the LaFerrari, where they custom tailored and 3D scanned your body so that the seat was perfect, but I quite like the idea of having different size seats depending upon your stature. Also, as Ferrari is the choice of sled for many business professionals, there is an option for a suit carrier, in case you need to bring your suit in your Ferrari and carry it. All right, well, enough just sitting here. Let's take this 488 out on the road and see what it's actually like to drive. The 488 has a curb weight of 3,252 pounds. That's 22 pounds lighter than the 458 and a full 150 pounds lighter than the Lamborghini Huracan, giving it a very competitive power to weight ratio. And considering you have 660 horsepower at your disposal, the acceleration is absolutely ridiculous. Here's some performance figures for you. While Ferrari claims 0 to 60 happens in a conservative 3 seconds flat, many magazines have tested the 488 to 60 in just 2.7 seconds, and the quarter mile in 10.6. That's just a hair off of the all-wheel drive's Huracan's 2.5 sprint to 60 and 10.4 second quarter mile. The 488 carries over the 7-speed DCT from the 458, an incredible transmission that I didn't think needed improving whatsoever when I reviewed a 458 Spider back about a year ago. Well, Ferrari said, we need to improve it anyways, and shifts are now 30% quicker. You're basically downshifting the second you actually think about downshifting in your mind, and your hand just grazes the paddles. They have beautiful actuation feel. Upshifts are the same as well. It actually has some pretty cool overrun, and when the exhaust is up to temperature, it crackles a bit. Something that I wouldn't have imagined Ferrari would have enjoyed. The crackles, they're too immature. That's not a Ferrari thing to do, but they've added it, and I really enjoy that. The biggest concerns people had with the 488 going forced induction was the sound quality as well as the engine response. Now, sound is obviously very subjective, but Ferrari has employed several techniques in order to improve the sound in the 488. Each individual gear has its own torque curve. Now, that's nothing new. In fact, boost by gear is a very common thing in the aftermarket world, but what they've done with it is quite interesting. At the lower RPM ranges, they've actually limited the boost to eliminate any of the bad sounds associated with a turbo car at low RPMs, and in turn, partially replicates the sound of a naturally aspirated V8. Now, does it sound as good as the 458's 9,000 RPM screaming naturally aspirated V8? Not quite, but it still actually sounds really good. And it's not something you can really fully appreciate until you actually get behind the wheel of a 488. I've heard tons of them pass by and it didn't sound all that awe-inspiring, but behind the wheel, I quite like the sound. Another concern was the presence of turbo lag. While actual lag is unavoidable until Ferrari employs electronically spooled turbos, If you can actually tell the presence of turbo lag and you are not a professional race car driver in the 488, I'd be very impressed. You see, they use very low friction aluminum and titanium impellers in the turbos to virtually eliminate turbo lag. The throttle response is incredible. It's instantaneous and it surges you forward with a heck of a lot more thrust than the 458 did. I mean, we have a massive torque increase from 398 pound-feet, which is a healthy amount, to 560. That's a heck of a jump. Oh my God. Really, the only indication of turbo lag, because the power comes on so hard at 3,000 RPMs, all 560 pound-feet are available at 3,000 RPMs, whereas in the 458, it's 398 pound-feet weren't available until 6,000 RPM. So you really had to rev that car all the way up the rev range in order to get the most out of the power. But the only indication that you can get from behind the wheel that it's turbocharged is the blow-off noise you hear when you're partially on the gas and then you let off, especially in, let's put it in 4th gear. Oh, that sounds awesome. I never would have expected actual beautiful blow-off noise from a Ferrari. Well, I'm going to talk more about the driving experience in my what it's like to drive a 458 point of view video. I will touch on it a little bit. The steering feels fantastic. It's a little bit heavier than that in the 458, but it makes the car feel so easy to drive on the road and allows you to be really, really precise with your inputs. And the confidence this car inspires for a rear-wheel drive 660 horsepower car is really out of this world. The suspension is also this perfect blend between stiffer springs in the 488 as compared to the 458, but it feels more compliant over bumps. That's hard to do, but they've done a great job with it. While the 488 is very different than the 458, that's not a bad thing. And in fact, prior to driving a 488, all these preconceived notions of lag and poor sound quality and lack of excitement have completely been thrown out the window after actually driving this. It is an engaging, emotional, invoking experience behind the wheel of the 488. The auto manufacturers, the world is changing, moving towards turbocharged cars and hybrid technology. If Ferrari had the choice, they probably would have maintained a naturally aspirated V8, bumped it up to 610 horsepower, and called it a day. But unfortunately, that's not the case. And despite that, Ferrari has done a remarkable job with the 488. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Like always, please browse the channel and subscribe. Once again, special thanks to O'Gara Coach of Westlake, California for making this review possible. I look forward to seeing you next video.